their lead through this acceleration. And if this hypothesis of acceleration in research is right, then you and some of the other leaders get to perpetuate their lead, and it's harder for new players to play from scratch, unless they come up with completely orthogonal approaches. And as you know, we are working on some orthogonal approaches, but does that perpetuate, give OpenAI an advantage in having an increasing valuation, which we all hope for? I for sure hope for that. That's a question on many people's mind.
Look, if I were an LP, I would be spending 0% of my time trying to figure out how to invest in another AI research lab, and 100% of my time figuring out how to invest in the thing that comes next. The thing that, I mean, GPs are also horrible at this, but you're not. You're pretty good. But in general, so much of the kind of mind share of investment capital in the world goes to chasing the last set of winners, and you almost never make money. You almost never make a lot of money there. You almost always make the big returns in looking at what's now possible in the world that wasn't before, and investing in a very unproven thing where you have some sort of differential insight. So right now, everybody wants to invest in the next OpenAI. And probably the next multi-trillion-dollar company will not be another AGI research lab. It will probably be the thing that got built because AGI now existed as a new technology. In the same way that when OpenAI was starting, what most people wanted to invest in was like, I don't remember what, another Facebook or something, or another cryptocurrency.
I do have to tell you a funny story. When we invested in OpenAI, it's the only time in 20 years I sent an apology letter for investing to all our LPs, saying, I know this looks weird, but we're doing it anyway.
I'll only hold that against you a little bit. That's okay. Anyway, I think it's a tremendously exciting time because the amount of new space that's been opened up is greater than any time I've ever seen before. When OpenAI was started, our space had been opened up by a research breakthrough, like the crypto market subsidizing GPUs and a lot of new progress there, a handful of other things. But there weren't, I remember that time period. The list of things that I thought were worth working on was very, very short. The list of things I think is worth working on right now is tremendous. And I think that's what people should be going off to fund. Whether the research returns continue to accrue to OpenAI or someone else, I think almost as a capital allocator at this point is not the most important question. There's going to be near free AGI in the world. There will be companies like OpenAI that have, I think, tremendous value that gets created because we have like a very large and successful consumer product and a handful of other things. But if we go back to the transistor analogy again, it just became like a piece of technology that enabled a whole set of new companies, including OpenAI. And that is what to go for. And again, tremendously exciting time to be a capital allocator. And you should chase the future, not the thing that worked in the past.
So let me go back to the launch of ChatGPT. What surprised you the most? And then based on what you saw in terms of user behavior there, how did your thinking evolve?
Well, I'll rewind back even a little bit more. So the tradition in tech companies is you start a product company, you build up this successful product company, and then you decide to like bolt a research lab onto it. And this has worked out sometimes quite well, like Xerox PARC, sometimes quite badly, like some of the more modern companies. But we are the only example I know of where we started with a really well-run research lab and then bolted on a badly run company later. And it was like 4.5 years into OpenAI. And we hadn't started thinking we were ever going to make products, but eventually it became clear that because of the scaling laws and the amount of capital we needed, we were going to have to go build a really big company. And so you need to have a product to have a company. And we had this model called GPT-3, and we were trying, I was turning up the urgency on the company to figure out a product, and we just couldn't. It wasn't good enough. It was cool, but it wasn't good enough to make something that worked. And I remember that Paul Graham had this advice that always stuck with me, which is you should always make an API. No matter what, you should make an API. It's just, there's like, good stuff will happen. So out of ideas to make a product, we said, well, let's like crowdsource this to the world, and we'll put GPT-3 into an API, and maybe somebody will figure out something to do with it. The whole world figured out exactly one thing to do with it. The only thing that made money with GPT-3 was these copywriting applications. I actually forget the companies' names now, but there were like a few companies that very quickly became like billion-plus valuation companies that were just using GPT-3 to generate copy for websites to like resell. And
Jasper, things like
Jasper,
that.
yeah. And that was it. People tried other stuff, but no other companies worked. However, we had this thing called the playground where you could like test prompts and see what you were going to get back. And that was sort of the sleeper hit. Some people, not a lot, but some people would just chat with that thing all day. And it was before we had figured out RLHF and before we had even GPT 3.5. So it wasn't very good, but there was like clear user signal that people wanted to talk to the models. And given that that was the only thing besides copywriting that had real traction, we said, well, maybe like this is just the product we should build. So we started doing some research to make the models easier to chat with, and you didn't have to do these like complicated prompts. And we had a better model. And then we decided we would put out a chat interface. We were planning to have to build some other stuff. There was like a big concern inside of OpenAI, which is if you can chat, does it have to be a specific kind of assistant trying to help you learn something or trying to help you accomplish some goal? Because if you're just chatting about nothing, are people going to want to do that, or is that going to just feel like you don't know what to say? And so we almost held it, but we put out this preview where you could just chat about whatever. And another interesting learning is we had this like testing group of it, and very few of the users, this is back when the model was really bad, very few of the users actually stuck with it. Retention was atrocious. But for the users that did retain, their usage like increased over time. And again, we almost didn't launch it because of that. And an important learning that I've like later reflected on is if you have a product that has any retention at all, you're actually in really good shape. If it's 5%, that can be totally fine. The default is almost always all the way down straight line to 0. But I didn't quite understand that as intuitively at the time.
So, and I don't know what numbers you use for publicly for the number of ChatGPT users today. What's your vision for ChatGPT going forward? Like,
the vision for OpenAI is that we would like to build a small suite of products and a platform that you can use with any other service to be sort of your default personal AGI. This is a system that will get to know you, that will be connected to your stuff, that will behave the way you want. And if you want to use it through a chat interface, fine. If you want to go use social products or entertainment products in a new way, great. If you want to get a lot of work done with agents and a bunch of other stuff, also great. And if you want to be able to just log into any other service and sort of bring your intelligence there, we'll have that too. Over time, that'll expand to new kinds of services. I think there's like a really important new kinds of computers to build, and we want our users to have those too. But, I think people are going to have a very important relationship with an AI that will help them be more productive, better, happier, whatever, just smooth their life, and we'd like to be that.
so it's more than just intelligence at your beck and call.
Well, I mean, at some level, that is what we're selling, but there's a lot of value in creating great experiences and integrating that in different ways.
And so if you look at the next billion users for ChatGPT. Is it the same use case? Is it expanded in some way? Is it lots of different segments? What do you imagine?
I don't like go through our product roadmap, but I think like we are still at the terminal stage of AI. And I actually happen to like terminals. I think that was like a nice way to use computers. But as we go build the rest of the modern computer interface around this, which will not literally be what computers look like, but that kind of equivalent step forward, I think it'll just be easier to use and much more capable and approachable for most people.
Yeah, I've heard you say ChatGPT is an operating system for intelligence.
Not yet. We'd like to get it there.
Yeah. So what's missing?
I mean, all of it. Like, we're very early. We have a whole...
We are early, but there must be things you think are missing.
There are.
So, yeah, it's okay if you don't want to talk about what's missing and what's coming.
Well, like, that's our product roadmap.
Yeah.
Like, you know, yeah.
Okay. Let's switch a little bit. Obviously, another important area beyond personal use is enterprise use. Speak to that a little bit.
So I think there's two interesting vectors here. One, this idea of virtual coworkers and the ability to use AI to just make all of the things an enterprise has to do that right now it's limited on better. That one's awesome. And you can already see some examples of this. The coding agent stuff is one where you can see the obvious application to enterprises. What's happening in customer support with AI agents is like pretty great. And I think at most enterprises, the proportion of tasks done by AI versus done by people is just going to go up and up and up.